Hello, listener. Welcome to another episode of the Youthful and Useful Podcast, where we discuss topics and ideas that empower young people to become leaders and change makers in their communities. I'm your host, Joy Igbenedion. In commemoration of the International Women's Day, annually held on the 8th of March, with this year's theme being Digital, Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality, we have a special guest on this episode. Her name is Amanda Obidike, and we are thrilled to have her on the show today. Amanda is a passionate advocate for STEM education and entrepreneurship in Africa. Just in case you're wondering what STEM means, STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. She is the founder of STEMI Makers Africa, an organization that empowers young people with skills and knowledge in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Amanda is also a constituent of the Leap Africa Social Innovators Program Fellowship. On today's episode, we'll talk about Amanda's journey into STEM education and what led to her founding STEMI Makers Africa. We'll also discuss her views on gender equality and how technology can be leveraged to address gender inequality in Africa. So sit back, relax, and join me as we engage with Amanda on this exciting episode of the Youthful and Useful Podcast. Hi, Amanda. It's great to have you on the show today.
Yes, thank you so much, Joy, and thank you so much, Leap Africa, for giving me the opportunity to come on board this session.
All right, we'll just dive right into the conversation. And, I'd like to start with you telling us a little bit about yourself and how you became interested in STEM education and entrepreneurship. Why STEM of all the fields out there?
Okay, thank you, Joy. I'm so excited about this session because apart from being in the month of March, where, it's International Women's Month, it's also a very key and strategic time in our lives as Nigerians, coupled up that we just concluded the presidential election, and next week we're also having a gubernatorial election on, state level. So first things first, my name is Amanda Obidike. I'm proudly Nigerian, and STEMI Makers Africa was an organization that I established in the year 2018. STEMI is an acronym for Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics, and Innovation. So the concept began in 2018. Okay, so I finished the university 2016. And, there's this good mentality of our parents where you finish from the university, they want you to get to a certain level of self-reliance and, a certain level of responsibility and independence. I finished the university, I started working in an FMCG organization, but 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line, I felt so demoralized and demotivated. I just felt that it was just about 9 to 5, no input, no platform for learning, no platform for ability to apply critical thinking, no creativity, in short. So I got bored of the job. I just felt tired and exhausted. So one day I just started to Google certain kind of skills that I can add into my existing job just to ensure that I have a unique proposition that I am going to be giving either to my employer or to another employer, maybe if I apply for a job. Then I started to realize that, people that graduated from university with me, I studied business management in the university, but I found out that, young talents who, finished computer science and engineering had this edge than me. Because they had to do apply a lot of technical activities and skills into the work that they do. So I got this opportunity to be trained by the IBM, and it was on data science and business intelligence. Now, this was very interesting because when I even went in for the mock test, I didn't, meet up to the score. But somebody just took a liking to what the passion that I was bringing in, and they also wanted to like address this underrepresentation that you have for women, because we had very few girls that applied to this opportunity. So I started this 2 weeks marathon, if I can use that word, to be knowledgeable in business intelligence. And it was a beautiful journey. But, back to, our parents' mentality, or, the family mentality, you finish this kind of training. And before then, you had pitched to your parents saying, oh, this is an amazing thing. This is what the world needs. By the time I finish, I will have a good job, XYZ. And that was the expectation that they were having when I finished the training. So, but I started thinking inward. I said, it's still going to be the same thing if I get this training and sink myself into the job markets. It may get to a time where 5 years down the line, I feel so bored again. Why don't I start an initiative that serves as a knowledge panel or a go-between, where I can ensure that young people like me can transition from education to employment, because it's something that we lack in the tertiary institution. So that was how I birthed STEMI. And STEMI was not just because I love business intelligence or data science that I just got trained into, but exploring other career opportunities around science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So that was how I got started with STEMI. I created as an NGO where we train teachers, because we realized that majority of young people in the whether not even in the university, secondary schools, we lack education counselors. You find out that you just enter this class out of maybe sentiment, or maybe your mom said this will be better for you, but not what you have identified as your edge or what you really love. So we started training educators in terms of knowing how to put practical resource tools, applying resource skills and activities into their classroom, just to ensure that students don't find mathematics or intro tech to be very difficult, but very exciting. So it's been a wonderful journey after all. But the summary of this background is I tried to identify a need, something that I knew that I didn't only lack, but young people like me also lacked, where, they cannot transition from education to employment. You go to the university, coming out, you can't really gather, or you can't really identify something you can do for the workforce.
Amazing. I mean, I'm so excited just listening to you give us this background into how you started it, and I think that this is very laudable that you found that gap. It was a gap for you, but you also recognize that it was a gap for a lot of other people, and you're able to fill that gap in your own way. Well done, really well done, Amanda. When you were speaking, you had mentioned that when you went for, in the application process, they took a liking to you, and there weren't so many females, there weren't so many women applying at the time. And this just brings me to ask this question, that how do you think innovation and technology can really help address gender inequality in Africa? I mean, also looking at it through the lens of the 2023 Women's Day, International Women's Day theme that says digital innovation and technology for gender equality. How do you think it can really help address that gender inequality in Africa?
Wow, thank you so much, Joy. Okay, so before I respond to that question, I just want to share this amazing survey that I saw on the WEF platform, where this survey states that the ICT, that's the Information and Communication Technology sector, contributed 18.44% to Nigeria's GDP. Now, this GDP is just in the second quarter of 2022 alone. And this same survey projected that ICT, the ICT industry is projected to experience more leap in the future. This was 18.44% contribution to the GDP of Nigeria in the second quarter. So that already tells you the wealth of possibilities, the wealth of opportunities that African countries can harness. Talk more of bringing or including gender inside. Let me also share one story that happened to us last month. Before, I just give us like bits of how we can, address gender inequality. Last month was February 11th was the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. The idea was to pick girls in local communities, underserved communities, to highlight the importance of them exploring science-related subjects. And we thought, why don't we do things differently? And I said, okay, we can do a film show, a realistic film show where these girls get to be inspired by women scientists who were underrepresented in their spaces, but did amazing, given their milestone. So we started to research. Sadly, Joy, we realized that we don't even have a cutout or a tailored documentary in the African continent that talks about women's stories. Now, that's the problem.
Wow.
I just realized that, okay, yeah, we saw Hidden Figures. Hidden Figures is an American movie. Picture of Scientist is an American movie. So we were like, what is going on? And I said, yes, this is also another problem. And I think we need to start looking at how we can forge partnerships with creatives to identify these women in the continent who are doing amazing and have a documentary. So in a process that we were pondering and it was sad, we had to, through partnership with UN OSWD, we got filming rights from BBC Storyworks to have Picture a Scientist movie, because it's not for sale, you have to get a license. We aired this movie for these girls and they were literally crying, because they haven't seen such a movie before, they haven't seen Hidden Figures before. They were so inspired. But then in my heart, I'm like, there is more to this. So this movies is cut out for the American states, it's cut out for the Western world, but we don't have any realistic movie in the continent. So that tells you that we need to start building infrastructures where we can highlight stories of women, because by the time you start highlighting these stories of women, they unconsciously start to tell themselves that if Mrs. A, for example, did this, I can do this in her situation. So a remedy for this is also mentorship. I really love mentorship. Mentorship is something that has helped me when I grew. I didn't have mentors when I was young, so I knew how it affected my life, in the university. And mentorship is not just only about impacting these girls, but it's about telling them your story, letting them know where you came from. So for example, you see people, I want Okonjo-Iweala inspires me, XYZ inspires me. That's amazing. But then Okonjo-Iweala would not be that patient to mentor you. She has quite a lot of things doing. There are a lot of C-level women that even look up to her. So I tell people, yes, these people inspire you, but you need to start connecting with people that you can have access to, because mentorship is all about access. Another remedy is job shadowing. Job shadowing is something that we don't often see in the continent, especially in Nigeria. Job shadowing plays a great role. So you have undergraduates or you have underemployed people. They want to launch themselves into the market, but they don't know how to. Our system is not too cut out for meritocracy, where maybe somebody, the person puts you in. We need to have this platform where we have good partnership and good collaboration with private entities, public entities, to see how we can match these girls into this space, because it's not just about having this addressing this gender inequality. These girls also need the confidence to be retained in the workspace. Then another remedy, that's the final one, is to upskill women with in-demand technology skills. It's very important. You look at the statistics of women that we have in artificial intelligence, you look at the statistics of women that we have in data science, it's at a low. I saw one that said we have just 4.1% women in the AI space. So we need to start being conscious about this and start forging partnerships. I love partnerships. We need to have this synergy with private and esteemed organizations to see that you have this value, you have this vision. Maybe they have the resources, they have the money. How can we bring all this to a center table and to see that this is being addressed?
Fantastic. That was a very enlightening response you gave with all of the data and just the pointers you also shared with us. And what I really hear, from your response is that the opportunities abound in technology, in the tech space for women to help project the abilities of women such that we're able to now begin to bridge that gap in gender inequality. So you also touched on mentorship and collaborations, really partnerships, mentorship, and that is so important. So I'd like you to, speak some more to the importance of mentorship in providing opportunities in the tech space.
Okay, thank you so much, Joy. I would like to share an approach that I feel is very, very sustainable. So I'm a big fan of mentorship. But I've been looking at it differently, where you try to mentor the bedrocks. Now, this bedrock I mean is the educators, the teachers, the principals. There are a lot of times where you do a survey, you find out that sadly they don't have enough resource tools to impact on these students. They don't have guidance. They don't have confidence themselves, because it's when you have confidence as a person that you can pass on this particular confidence. So importance of mentorship transcends and it goes beyond just the students. It also has a lot to do on the teacher level. The importance of mentorship is vast. But in as much as we are also talking about the importance, we should also look at who the drivers of this mentorship will be. It should not just only cut or around me as a person or as a maybe an NGO person or you or Leap Africa. It should also dive down into the educators.
Amazing. So the importance of mentorship goes beyond just the young girls. It extends to the people who teach the young girls. And I know that you've mentioned confidence a number of times, and it just speaks to how important confidence is and the role that even mentorship plays in building the confidence of young people. Thank you so much, Amanda. This brings me to ask the question about partnership. I'd like for you to expand on that, on how STEMI collaborates with other organizations in promoting STEM education and even entrepreneurship, in Africa.
Okay, thank you so much, Joy. Partnership and collaborative relationship, I always tell people, it's like the key thing as an NGO or as a social enterprise, because it's just about complementing ourselves with the resources that we don't have, but another person or another organization have. So, for example, collaboration within the organizations. The first organization that we had partnership with was my mom's NGO. Now, the funny thing was, I just got started. I think we've not even registered as at that time. And my mom has this NGO. It's a women empowerment program. They also have like a library for students. So I didn't want to say, okay, maybe because I'm familiar with her and she's my mom and she has her audience. She works and does a lot of work around communities. So why don't I just penetrate? And I had a lot of STEM tools. I have this fetish of, when I see children, I just want to buy toys for them. I just want to buy something that's going to use rather make them think, Not that I don't like football and everything, but I always have this fetish that why don't you give a child, for example, like a Rubik or a puzzle to solve rather than them, doing XYZ. So I brought in these tools, STEM resource tools, and I know she has quite a lot of children that, are under the NGO. And, I started doing this Saturday program with them. Now, why I'm saying this is, I just said I needed to start from somewhere. Who are the community-based organizations that I can work with? Because, for example, they have the audience. I don't have the audience. Okay, so it's just about complementing. Then the second one we had, which, I was able to gather milestones and doing XYZ with them. We had to partner with the US Consulate General. But I can tell you for free that partnership has extended and has expanded our reach, because we've won several grants with the consulates, but it's just a thing in Nigeria where maybe someone Googles what you are doing and they say, oh, wow, this person has done something with consulate. We can penetrate with them because they understand that, at that level is a very competitive thing. So for them to be winners or for them to be awarded these grants, it shows that they know what they are doing. So it has been one thing after the other. But why I had to share this story with you is that we should understand that collaboration is a new competition. I have partnered with STEM organizations like myself in Tanzania, in Botswana, in Kenya, right? Now, I do that because I don't have a physical office per se in these countries, but I have Tanzanians or South Africans in this country who are well established, for example, or they have their space, they have their audience, and bringing in the resources. So it was just about synergizing, and it has been amazing. So if we have this mentality that we need to collaborate cross-sector, private institution, public institution, your reach will be amazing. And sorry, I just wanted to key in. I just realized that I didn't respond to the B part of your last question in terms of how Semi Makers Africa provides mentorship opportunities, which is kind of connected to this present question. So we have this program called Project Kongoza mentoring program. Kongoza is a Swahili language and it means to lead. So our motto is empowering women and girls to lead. This, stemmed in COVID, where we should probably have mentorship program, but just for secondary school girls. But this we tripled our impact during COVID when we realized that we did a program in Tanzania and we found out that two girls that were 15 years old as at that time were pregnant. And that's because while schools that had the resources could, engage students with online learning, these girls in rural communities didn't have access to school, they didn't have access to online platform, they didn't have access to resource tools. So you know how they say, and I don't mind in the devil's workshop. So this affected them. So we started saying, why don't we have this mentoring program during this period where we can engage girls, we can make them busy until COVID goes, and then they can go back to their school. It was amazing because when we had this call out for mentees, we had 1,000+ applications. But now coming back to the continent, we had said, okay, call for mentors. We had less than 40 women that could sign up as mentors, and we started saying, wow, this is a problem. Indeed, we really have a lot of underrepresentation of women and girls in STEM. So we said, okay, we need to come back to these mentors and see how we can change our concepts from maybe one-to-one mentor, like one mentor, one mentee, to 4 girls paired to a mentor. Now, it was really, really tough because, these women are doing things in their spaces, in the academia, in their profession, etc. But I really am so thankful that they were open to that. We give them strategies where you can say, create a WhatsApp group, just you and the 4 girls, drop assignments, drop your story via voice note, just to ensure that these conversations keep going. I'm thankful that, a lot of them were open to, doing this, even if we, kind of put them in a very, very uncomfortable situation. But one thing is clear, they knew that the gap was there. And it was just a way of them lending their voices, lending their support, and lending their stories to these girls.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amanda. There was something you mentioned. You said collaboration, new competition. And it just reminded me of a saying that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with people. Literally, if you want to go far, collaborate. And I like that you shared the stories that you shared, because it showed the trajectory of your collaborations. You started with what was available, you started where you were, and that just speaks to horizontal collaborations and vertical collaborations. Starting where you are, you didn't go for the international collaborations immediately. You started with what you had, and that sort of gave you the ground to now push further, and that gave you some credibility, that enabled you to now have those collaborations with international bodies and organizations. So well done. And that brings me,
thank you.
That brings me to ask, and I see that you, in speaking to mentorship, you've talked a lot about sharing personal stories. And I believe that going that deep, makes things more relatable for people. And we'll get there in a bit. But before we get there, I want you to speak to the future of STEM education and entrepreneurship in Africa.
Okay, wow. Thank you so much, Joy. I love the continent, honestly. The last couple of years have shown me how resilient we are as not just a continent, on a community level, the local level, in Nigeria, etc. I mean, on a daily basis, you get to hear certain startups that are breaking ceilings and are closing out seed funding, etc. So that shows you the possibilities of, what technology or say STEM is, ushering us in. So the future looks beautiful, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And I'll tell you why. So we need to create an enabling environment for these ideas to be harnessed on a grassroots level. Now, why do I say that? There's still a lot of things that we need to start overhauling. If you realize, for example, you go to say Hong Kong, or Singapore, or some of these Asian countries, you see that their curriculum, for example, is so practical or project-based. Very, very project-based. Everything is practical. A child as young as 4 or 5, they're learning geophysics, and you're like, oh my God, what is happening? Because on a daily basis, I have nieces, I have nephews, I see their homework, and sometimes I cry, and I'm like, oh my God, there is a lot of things that we need to do. You see a child 10 years old in the school, they give them an assignment. For example, they say, print out a tree, just print it out, and that's an assignment. And I'm like, I don't understand that. You're not engaging that child. That child is not able to think critically. So the reason I'm saying this is we need to start learning things for the future, okay? And it starts from our education background. We need to start looking at how to start applying instructional pedagogy, whether on the teacher level, project-based learning on the student level. That way, they are caught unguarded, okay? There was this research I saw, I may not get it correctly, but they were saying that in some years' time, we wouldn't need doctors. So that is telling you that the world is gradually changing, but we owe ourselves the need of, as the world is changing, we should also move with the world. So that's on an education level. Then on a higher level, we need to start designing infrastructures and policies that are more inclusive. One thing that I really love what we were able to do last year was to see how we got this appointment with the Continental Education Strategy for Africa under the African Union. So that's just a way of helping design policies where we can have instructional pedagogy for teachers. Training should be mandatory for teachers because they understand that this is what the teacher knows, that the teacher is able to cascade down to the classroom. So we need to start having this kind of conversations on a state level, on a national level, let me not even say continental level, because each country has its own framework. But we need to start designing this infrastructure just to ensure that students are not left behind.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for that response. And 2 things that really stood out to me that you mentioned in the areas of education and policies, just reviewing and completely overhauling the curriculum if we're going to get to the future that we envision, and also putting the right policies in place that would then lead to us also putting in place the right infrastructure, because for the infrastructure to work, the policy has to be there to support it. Thank you Thank you so much, Amanda. Your responses have been very, very, very enlightening and very rich, I must say. Now,
Joy.
I want us to go a bit deeper, and take it a little more personal. So in speaking, you had mentioned sharing personal stories. So I want you to share with us, some of the challenges that you have encountered as a woman in the STEM field and how you've been able to deal with these challenges.
Okay, yeah. So personally, from my own self, let me just start from myself as a person. I am a very reserved person. I'm not too outspoken. I don't know, it's something that I started like when I was young. So I'm always to myself. And, like they say, a closed mouth cannot be fed. I needed help, but approaching people was a problem for me. Why I'm saying that is because, in the process of, trying to find direction, like what next when I was working before I started my organization, I needed to understand what I can do next. Should I pull out? Should I stay? Because of fear of the unknown. So I was so close-mouthed, and I see that that's something that we lack as for women. Women are so shy, for example, to blow their trumpets, but so shy to approach people and all. That posed a problem for me at the first level, But, I had to discover this and say, see, I need to come all out. I need to tell people what the situation is and see how they can help me out. So that's one. But on a general scope, challenges that I faced in the STEM field, yes, like I said, and facts have it, we have underrepresentation of women and girls that are in STEM field. So for me, coming into some kind of room, pitching what I do, sometimes people couldn't fathom, because I don't know whether it was because of my stature, I'm slim, I don't know, maybe they felt to see one chubby person, maybe probably married or XYZ. So there's a word that they call it. So is that kind of stereotype where there's a particular kind of countenance that they want for women. But, good enough, when I start pitching or start telling what I do, then you now start finding that attention being drawn away from such sentiments into the vision. So why I'm saying this is we have quite a lot, this underrepresentation that has made us to be, there's a word I'm struggling to find for it. Joy, I don't know if you can help me, but it's a way of looking at somebody, their disposition or their countenance, and you are already concluding the kind of person that they have. So that was.
So I believe it's stereotyping.
Stereotyping, and yeah. But there's another word, I think I'll remember it, but that was, what I faced as a woman. But it took a while. I knew that this was a problem. At least you can see it from their face, you can see it from their body languages. But it was something that I started saying, I need to strengthen my voice. I need to be more confident so that whatever you have of me, by the time I finish engaging you or, finish, not that I'm trying to win you, but I want to show you who I am outside of my skin. I just want to show you how passionate and how vision driven I have in terms of improving STEM education in the country.
As we wrap up this conversation,
I'm sorry. Yes, I just remember the word profiling.
Profiling.
Yeah. Profiling.
Yes. Profiling. Yeah. That's very correct. It's profiling. And, quite interestingly, I've heard other women, who are also doing amazing things out there. I've heard them talk about these same challenges, how you walk into a room, you tell them what you do, and they're looking at you like, okay, who are you? You're not married. You're saying that you are the CEO of this company. It just almost speaks to your competence, and they already think that you're not competent because first, you're a woman, second, you're not married, third, you just look so small, So yes, absolutely understand and relate with these challenges that you have mentioned. But I think that one thing I'd like to ask with regards to that is, how do you then manage that? How do you manage that?
Okay, how do I manage that? Okay, so you work two ways. I'm not a social person, so I know how sometimes maybe this is a problem, you try to go all out, be more like social and everything. I'm still an in-house person, but the thing is, I always try to leave a lasting mark wherever I am. So, for example, I have this conversation with you. I ensure I'm very ambitious. I'm sorry, even as much as I'm reserved, I'm very ambitious. In as much as I have this conversation, maybe like in an open room, I ensure that before I leave there, I'm changing that narrative you have of me. Okay, I'm changing that narrative you have of my capacity. I'm changing the narrative you have of my vision. I'm giving you numbers. I'm telling you milestones. I'm telling you possibilities. I'm giving you projections of what we are doing. It's automatic. I find out that, and it has worked for me, because a lot of times you leave that room or you leave that conversation and they want you to continue. They want to see how, even if they're not offering you what you want, they are probably recommending you to XYZ organization and say, please reach out to them. They do this kind of program. They have this kind of partnership or sponsorship plan and everything. So it's just as a way of still growing myself in confidence. Okay, I believe that nobody can blow your trumpet as much as you as a person. So I would rather blow my trumpet to ensure that you see what I want to do. It's just like an organization I'm consulting for. And I told them, I shared with them last month, I said, I'm projecting that we're going to be raising, that's the organization that we're going to help them raise 1 billion naira. And on that call, Joy, the men were laughing. And I said, okay, they were laughing because even the owner was shocked, but I said, I'm going to raise 1 billion. So it's just a way of having this daring, this I can do all, through Christ who strengthens me, by the way. Having that, showing them that capacity that you can lead, it's not just about having that vision. The 1, 2, 3 steps you need to put to ensure that is achieved. And trust me, it has won me quite a lot of change in mindset about women who are, excelling in STEM.
Thank you so much. I hear you. You have to be audacious, right? And you have to also be competent. You have to walk the talk. You can't just say that, I can do this, but you have to show that, yes, indeed, you can do it. And, just as we wrap up this conversation that has been so interesting, what would your advice be, to women in Africa who are interested in pursuing careers in the STEM field, and even just aside from the STEM field, generally in career, what would your advice be to women who are looking to pursue their careers?
Yes. So I usually say this, but I think I'm going to say it differently. I tell people, like young girls, budding girls in technology or in science, I tell them to be free to dream and excel. Me, for one thing, I'm a dreamer. I want to take you back to when I was, how old was I? I think it was 8 years old, 9 years old. I always scribble in fact, my dad kept shouting and complaining. I scribble, I take the pencil and I always scribble my signature on the sitting room wall. Like, you just see some handwritings on the wall and you just know that is Uzoma. Uzoma is my native language. So, and I always tell them, I say, I would love to see my signature on the Naira currency, I was 9, I still have that dream. Why I'm saying this is, start dreaming, because when you dream it, you be it. Yourself in it, you walk into it, you want to know the process, you apply, you go by the process. Okay, and it's something that society has kind of limited women or girls to dream or to envisage themselves in 5 years time, I want to do XYZ. Because it's only when you project, you start looking at how you can work or how you can set up processes to achieve that. So first things first, be free to dream, be free to excel, be free to succeed. Okay? I, for one thing, I'm an example. I wouldn't have known, okay, this is the stage I'm going to be, 5 years before or 4 years before. But I always have this mentality that this is what I want to do. What am I going to do to apply that process? Another way I can advise girls and like young women and girls trying to navigate themselves or navigate through STEM, let me not just say technology, is to see how to volunteer. It may not be related, but I will tell you why. Volunteer taking me to places where I never imagined I would be. It's about selflessness. Yeah, I know you are putting yourself first, but I think you also need to look at the wider picture. You need to look at the social impact part of it, because one of the things that drive me in STEM education is not the money, it's not the ambience, it's not the visibility. It is ability to make a difference. I want to live the world being a legend. I want to be living where they will say XYZ, Amanda, Joy were the pioneers, were the people who helped set this framework in Nigeria with STEM. That's how I see myself. So if, for example, I put myself in that, being selfless, being open to serving, being volunteering in different ways. You never know who is even in that space that is interested in what you do, that maybe probably have the X to your Y or have the A to your B. So it's just about how we can take ourselves back and see how we project ourselves into the future, see the kind of lasting mark that we hope for the world to see, or for your community to see, or for your country to see. And you find out that naturally, the processes get to fall in place. So in summary, I want girls to be free to dream. I want them to be free to excel. I want them to be open to learning every day. This year, for example, I had this diary. I always have this diary that I always get to share what I've learned, what the issues were, randomly say, okay, I'm going to call 5 people in this. I created a diary separately where every week I write my wins, I write my failures. It may be an application that I wrote. I say I would write it down that maybe the results came out and I wasn't successful and everything. I document it because I want to tell my story one day. I don't want a time where people may just see you to your high rising and they may be wondering where did this person come from. You should be able to have this track record of what life has been for you. Thank you so much, Joy.
Wow. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you so much for bringing yourself to this interview and, just pouring out of the wells of knowledge that you have. Thank you so much. And, as you were speaking, I was just taking note of some of the things that you were saying. And you had said, when you dream it, you become it, right? So it really does start with that, envisioning where you want to be and taking the steps that are needed to get there. Volunteering, be open to learning, excel. Excellence is so important, and document your journey so that you're able to say to people, this is how I did it. I didn't just appear from nowhere. Yeah. This is the process. This is what I went through to get to where I am. And so they also see that it is possible. Yes, it would take time. It would take diligence, but you would definitely get there. Thank you so much, Amanda. This has been a really, really, really great session. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Joy. Thank you for being an amazing host. I also want to thank Joshua and the Leap Africa team for giving me the opportunity. I'm so happy to, lend my voice towards this cause. And I know that, Leap Africa on its own is doing amazing in that space in terms of leadership, in terms of scaling youths, whether on the policy level, entrepreneurship, or your social enterprise. So I'm so happy to be in the number. Thank you.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Youthful and Useful. We had an insightful conversation with Amanda Obidike, founder of STEM Makers Africa, on her journey as a STEM educator and entrepreneur. Amanda shared with us her passion for using technology and innovation to solve problems in Africa, particularly in the areas of education and gender equality. She also talked about her experience with the challenge of profiling as a young single woman who's also a leader in the tech space, and how she continues to rise above the challenge. We hope you enjoyed this episode and learned a lot from Amanda's experiences and insights. If you want to learn more about STEMI Makers Africa and how you can support their work, be sure to check out their website at www.stemimakersafrica.org. Amanda also talked about the importance of volunteering. So for those interested in volunteering and making a difference in Africa, Leap Africa offers various volunteering opportunities. You can visit www.leapafrica.org/volunteer to learn more and apply today. Also remember to follow us on all our social media platforms at Leap Africa. And you'll find more episodes of our podcast on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, or anchor.fm/Leap Africa. They're also available on the Leap Africa website at www.leapafrica.org. Thank you for listening to the Youthful and Useful Podcast today. Happy International Women's Day. Bye for now.